have 5 of 6 here.
Okay. It seems like perhaps we ought to move ahead, and hopefully he'll be able to catch up with us.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Does to me, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Aaron, for helping with the not small logistics of this meeting of the executive committee. And I hear somebody's just joined.
Yes, what I'm going to do once we get started and you have me call roll, I'll explain that we'll be muting all the calls with the exception of our committee members or presenters that are on the agenda. And that's not Rich. He would say something. Again,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, so thank you everybody for your time. I know we're going to hear about the work across the campuses and in the admin office with regard to the COVID-19 crisis. We've been in touch with a number of you about this throughout, and we've appreciated the ongoing efforts and communication. And I just want to state for the record how much the board appreciates the response of really so many people at the campus level. In particular, adjusting for an entirely dramatic and urgent sea change in the way we're delivering services from the classroom to the online platforms that are not as easy as everybody has always represented them to be. And certainly to acknowledge the inconvenience and upset for not only the faculty and staff, but also students, and the tremendous burden this places on the administrative teams across the system. These are just extraordinarily difficult and trying times, and we found ourselves not only at the apex of this in terms of a very important part of people's lives, nearing, in many cases, the culmination of their academic careers, but also in serving, per our emergency meeting recently, as a venue for the response by our communities to this crisis. So thank you all for everything you're doing in this regard, and please continue to ask us for whatever support or actions we need to do to enable you to move forward in that regard. With that, Madam Secretary, why don't I ask you to formally call the roll and attend to any other specifics we need to know about.
Okay, thanks. First, I will call the roll of the executive committee members. Matt Fleury.
Here.
Obviously there. Merle Harris.
Who?
Merle Harris.
Here.
Elise Wright.
Here.
David Jimenez.
Here.
Naomi Cohen.
Here.
And Rich Balducci. Are you on the line, sir? Okay, also, we have President Ojakian is on the call, and I'd just like to confirm that the following people, staff members, are also on the call. Ben Barnes. I did hear him call earlier. Jane Gates, are you on the line? Okay, I'm sure will be calling in shortly. Joe Talisano already indicated that he was here, as well as Andy Kripp. And for the purposes of our meeting going forward, all the other calls I'll be muting on that we have connected on WebEx, all the lines. If you are called upon to address the board by the chairman or president, address the committee by the chairman or President Ojakian, please identify yourself. If you're a member of the committee, you need to be recognized during the course of the meeting. Just ask the chairman to recognize you. Again, once again, identifying yourself. And if I could ask all participants to mute their lines this time, because we do get a significant amount of echo if we don't have the lines muted. All set, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Having learned from my own experience in my office, one shouldn't assume that everybody knows how to mute an iPhone. And having figured out this advanced technological move myself, I just want to let you know, if you're looking at a keypad with numbers on it and asking where the heck did my mute button go, there's a little underneath the right column of numbers. It says hide, at least the iPhone look. And when you push that, you get a different screen, lo and behold, which includes the little microphone with a slash through it, which is the mute button. So just a little operator pro tip for you there. So we've got the meeting called to order. We've called the roll. Let me first dispense with the minutes. We can take both the January 16th regular meeting and the March 26th emergency meeting minutes together in one vote. May I have a motion?
So moved. Naomi,
So
I move.
Merle, I second.
Thank you, Naomi and Merle. Are there any changes or amendments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are any abstaining or opposing? The minutes are approved. Thank you. And now let's move immediately to the COVID-19/coronavirus system response and future planning. President Ojakian, thanks again to you and your team, and we'll pitch it over to you for the update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Executive Committee, and good morning. I would first like to start by thanking you and members of the board for the support you've given to me and the team as we transition to a new normal in providing our higher education services to the students that we collectively serve. Since it became clear at the beginning of this crisis that we would be forced to close our campuses for an extended period, our top priority at the system has been to help students adjust to the new reality. These items and many others have been of paramount concern as we began moving to an online system. I want to particularly publicly again, as I've done in the past, thank our incredible faculty and staff at all of our campuses for really rising to the occasion and begin in a very short period of time to deliver all of the classes we offer online. This has been an effort of great magnitude, and everybody has met the challenge and understood and embraced the fact that what we were attempting to do was to provide students with as seamless a path forward as possible to complete their academic career this semester. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved, in that. I will get to my team in a second, but just a few high-level comments. From a financial perspective, we have pledged to continue to pay student workers through the remainder of the semester, regardless of whether they were able to work or not. All of our staff and faculty at all of our colleges and universities will continue to be paid through seamlessly, but at least through the end of this semester. I don't anticipate that stopping once the semester is over. And we've been working with our foundations, who have been unbelievable in reallocating funds to be spent on helping students make ends meet during this crisis. We have also, from a technical standpoint, worked to ensure that our students have the resources necessary to complete. And we've made devices available where possible through the ordering of laptops and tablets and computers. We've made software available to students and faculty during this time, and have worked directly with internet providers to ensure students have access to high-speed broadband. Now, we know that despite all of our efforts collectively, there are going to be students who are not going to be able to complete. And we are working with each campus to understand what those challenges are and to try to do everything in our possible to be of assistance to those students. I would also like to say that we have also been an integral part of the governor's overall response team to the COVID-19 pandemic. From day one, we have been in contact with members of his administration and the governor directly to not only offer ourselves as a resource, but to continue to work with all of the state agency commissioners whose responsibilities intersect what we do every day. And as many of you know, we now are being utilized as overflow for hospitals in communities to provide beds. You saw yesterday that the O'Neill Center at Southern was opened up. I think it's a 250 or 300 bed unit. We anticipate in the next day or so the same happening at Western, and not too far behind will be Central and Eastern. Our dorms will be utilized as well, either for the housing of medical and military personnel, but also for use by state first responders and corrections officers who may not want to go home after they've been in facilities where the virus may be present. We are also working with the emergency management team on identifying space at our community colleges, which may be used in the future, whether it's classroom space, lab space, where hospitals and other universities can work at the college, as well as beds that might be available at some of our community colleges, and also other large spaces that could be used in the near future to house whatever needs to be housed. I mean, this is a very fluid, as you can tell by the news, response, and we have to be as flexible as we can to be able to respond accordingly. I will say, on a personal note, I couldn't have asked for a better team to work with at the system. My team has been working tirelessly with all of the campuses to make sure that our response is consistent, that it meets the needs of the state, of the communities, and ultimately of the students that we collectively serve. I want to give a special shout out to Alice Pritchard, who has really kept all of the trains running on time and has really helped to manage me during this very difficult time period. We have been in touch constantly, morning, noon, and night, working to try to make the response and the lives of our faculty, staff, and students as easy as possible during this very difficult time, while also trying to manage our own internal family concerns and grocery shopping and making sure we don't get infected by the virus. So to my team, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And to the greater CSU community, thank you for rising to the challenge and to making this difficult task possible for our students who have quite honestly been one of the most resilient groups of people I've ever met. I receive emails from students all the time who have challenges, and we've tried to help them with those challenges. I was on a call earlier this week with the Student Advisory Committee who invited me to attend. Just the resiliency of these folks has been inspiring. So, Mr. Chairman, we have folks from the team, the system office team, who have led their subject matter teams. And so without, if you have any questions on me, I'm happy to answer them. But then I'm going to turn it over to Alice to call on members of the team to give a very brief update and then to entertain questions on where we are now and into the future.
Thank you, Mark. I think that makes sense. Why don't we defer questions until Alice and your team have been able to provide your updates, because I know you've spent some time preparing them, so perhaps there won't be many questions.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is Alice Pritchard, Chief of Staff, and we do have high-level updates for you from key staff people, and they're happy to take additional questions. And we only have 4 of the many people who could talk to you this morning, so they're speaking on behalf of their colleagues on the team as well. But there's as President Ojakian said, there's a strong team that's been working on this, and we're all trying to keep ourselves sane. So let me start with our CFO, Ben Barnes, and ask him to speak to how we've been addressing financial matters, budgeting matters, as well as facilities on behalf of Keith Epstein, who has really been working around the clock of late to be part of the governor's response team. So Ben, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I have a few things to report. Some of these you may have seen reported in the news. The universities have all undertaken to refund room and board, prorated room and board payments. Those refunds, at least on average, would be about $3,200 per student, although there's a number of factors that make it a little higher or lower than that in each case. The total of those refunds is $24.5 million. There may be some minor offsets from the food service companies, but those we haven't finalized what those are, especially since the food services are being reactivated in some cases for emergency response. We are looking into in the community colleges the question of possible refunds there. Well, first of all, the universities, they are not refunding tuition, and they are taking the position that they are moving all their courses online, and so will continue to offer their entire offering. In the community colleges, there are a few courses that have only recently been clearly articulated which ones they are. It's a very small number of 4 credit courses and a slightly larger handful of non-credit courses which have been canceled because they cannot be offered online for one reason or another. The colleges have been very successful at moving their courses online, and we will be developing an approach for refunding tuition to those students in cases where our courses, the courses have been canceled by the universities. We just sent out yesterday a detailed cost reporting survey to all the campuses, both universities and colleges. So we should have a first cost reporting for COVID-19 by next week, and we will continue to do that probably every 2 weeks or so during the duration of this, so that we can maintain up-to-date records on what we're spending. So far, I don't think they're huge numbers, but I suspect that as we begin to activate some of our contracts to support the use of facilities at the universities, we'll see larger numbers that we're going to need to seek reimbursement for. The federal government, the CARES Act that was passed last weekend, includes some considerable amount of support for colleges and universities. There's something there called the Higher Education Relief Fund. That includes grants to individual institutions. The totals for the CSUs is about $25 million, and for the community colleges, it's just under $30 million when you total it all up. There's nothing for Charter Oak because it's only for colleges based on the formula of students who were not in a 100% online environment prior to the emergency. So that leaves Charter Oak out of that funding stream. We are working to identify the restrictions that we must follow for the spending of that money. The one piece that's in the statute is that half of those grants must be used for emergency financial assistance for students. So we're going to be proposing some alternative ways to satisfy that obligation in the coming days. In terms of facilities, we have turned over dormitories and field houses at Southern and Western. The Southern has been converted into a field hospital. I believe that that's happening a day or so behind at Western. We're also working to clear out dorms and gymnasiums and the like at Central and Eastern as well. We anticipate providing facilities at all four of those universities eventually to the state's emergency response to provide overflow hospital beds, as well as accommodations for healthcare and other first responders who are part of the COVID-19 response. That has been a logistical challenge, but I would give Keith, as well as Joe Tolosano and all the folks at the campus level, enormous credit for their perseverance and willingness to jump into the fray at the last minute to make that happen. And with that, I believe my time has expired. Madam Pritchard.
I forgot I was supposed to be timing you all to see who won the prize for the shortest report. So let's see if how Dr. Gates can do. We've asked her to give a brief academic and student affairs update, and would encourage Dr. Harris and Regent Cohen to ask her for more detail tomorrow for your committee if you think appropriate, but we thought a high-level report made sense for this morning. So Dr. Gates.
Good morning, everyone. I am providing a report from the academic side. First, the faculty and staff, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yep, Jane, you're good. Go right ahead.
I'm good? Okay.
You are good.
Excellent. Remote learning, first of all, the faculty and staff have been just absolutely exemplary in meeting this challenge. The CSUs have been leading on-ground and virtual sessions, while the community colleges have been offering multiple virtual training sessions. Both the CSUs and the community college campuses have been covering LMS, web conferencing, lecture capturing tools, and in fact, in general, both the faculty and our students have adopted this virtual learning, remote learning extremely well. They've adapted to this virtual learning well. Also engaged in this effort has been the CFT. So we're very, very pleased with the innovative ways that our faculty have been providing e-learning to our students, and that includes e-lab sessions as well that are being used for students are being mailed kits at home. So that I will stop on the academic piece on remote learning. Moving next to the status of procedure for the pass-fail grade option. Currently, the procedure for pass-fail grade option is being amended to further clarify the procedure in response to the numerous comments from faculty and staff that we've received. So under construction are the FAQ for the pass-fail grade option and an online form for students to apply. This deadline for students to apply, the deadline for the document will be available April 15th for those students who wish to apply. Because the process will be modified based on the feedback received and will differ from the version already out there, we're strongly encouraging students to wait until after April 15 and ideally until after the final grades are posted before applying for this option. And finally, on the status of pass-fail, you should know that we are coordinating this procedure with the State Department of Education that are aligning their criteria, a grade option, with what we will promulgate very, very soon throughout the CSCU system. Moving next to 2 crisis teams that have been established. The first team is the Enrollment Management Crisis Team, chaired by Allison Buckley, VP for Enrollment Management for the community colleges. Their charge is that of identifying and prioritizing the issues that limit student enrollment and persistence in a remote environment, and to provide immediate solutions at the system or college level that impacts student enrollment, registration, student records, student finance and financial aid, and academic advising, Title IV compliance, and any other type of student communication. Now, to take a breather here, the second the crisis team that has been established is one that is called the Remote Teaching and Learning Crisis Team. That team is chaired by Mike Stefanowicz, who's the interim VP, you all know, for academic affairs for the community college. And that crisis team is charged with identifying and prioritizing issues that relate to successful completion of courses for the spring 2020 semester. The team will establish timelines for delivery of those issues and push those back out to all of the campuses, particularly community college campuses that may be experiencing any type of remote teaching and learning challenge, online libraries and other critical academic student support services. The next matter we're dealing with here, initiative, addresses multiple measures placement with the high school GPA. The Connecticut Math Advisory Council Executive Committee, which has met virtually, has moved forward the recommendation that the high school GPA as a means of course placement be used for this time frame to for students to be placed in the math and or English courses at the community colleges. So we're very, very pleased with that recommendation. It has been moved forward to the campuses. And I think that's it for now. There are more things going on, but those are the major high-level kinds of initiatives that have been undertaken to ensure that our students experience less anxiety and stress in being admitted to our colleges and universities, and that, in fact, we are working very carefully with the high schools to ensure that the students who will have no grading periods during this period pass-fail will be able to enter our institutions without having any undue problems in the admissions process. This is true for both the CSUs with the pass-fail option as well as an admissions, as well as the community colleges with which currently have an open admission. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Gates. I did just want to confirm that the crisis teams are both focused on the community colleges.
Correct.
And not the universities, correct?
Correct. They're only focused, the crisis teams are focused on the community colleges.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I want to turn to Joe Tolosano to talk a little bit about our IT response at the campuses and at system office, and to, again, thank him. He has also been our WebEx administrator for our crisis response team, which has been no small task either. So, Joe, thank you, and please give your report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So if there's any silver lining in this crisis is that the pandemic hit right before spring break. So we utilized those 8 or 9 days to, migrate all of our coursework, as Dr. Gates said, online. So we have three platforms we're using to use as collaboration suites. The system, all 16 or 17 institutions, they create a shell for every course that we offer in the system. So that's thousands of courses. There already is a shell in Blackboard. So they were already pre-positioned to migrate content to the online format, which we took advantage of during those 8 or 9 days. We also use two other collaboration suites, Microsoft Teams and WebEx. So the administration is using both WebEx and Teams, as is the academic working closely with the students. So they have three formats they can use, not only to deliver content, but to deliver advising and counseling. We've distributed just about every piece of equipment we own. And we've also, for lack of a better term, cannibalized some of our computer labs where there's no confidential data on the systems, and re-imaged them and used those for some of our gaps we had with faculty and administrators who didn't have machines remotely at their home telework location. We've also are leveraging, fortunately, the investments we've made over the last 5 years in the cloud have paid huge dividends. We have very little infrastructure left at 61 Woodland Street and at the 17 locations. It's all in the cloud. So we're leveraging those relationships to deliver content and to administer the system remotely. We're operating 100% remotely. Very small teams of IT staff go in periodically to do some maintenance on the servers that are left there, or pretty much to deliver laptops to the system. We are working diligently to maintain our data security. We've relaxed some of it in this environment, but our cloud vendors are maintaining a high level of security on our behalf. So we're appreciative of that. Assistance to the state. We've been able to pull the data from our systems for nursing students and allied health students, and based on the governor's request for volunteers, we're working with the schools to message them to sign up voluntarily to assist in that endeavor. We've also worked very closely with the mobile hospitals that are being deployed into Western and Southern. Basically, the hospital administrators knew this was coming in January, bought all the equipment they needed for network and telecommunication and security, and they had networks in a box. We just had to provide them an internet connection, which we are doing. But there are gaps, as you can imagine. Excuse me, the supply chain is extremely compressed at this time. It's very difficult to get laptops or equipment or network equipment, although we're leveraging our relationship as best we can. There's gaps in student technology. We've talked a little bit about that. Faculty and staff have some gaps, and there's gaps in internet access. We have deployed all our hotspots to faculty and even to some students through the library consortium to get internet access in the remote places around the state, but those resources are becoming constrained also. And of course, you probably have seen this in your own experience. The last mile of the internet is very congested because everyone, is working remotely, not only K through 12, but all our businesses and all of us. So there is some internet congestion, but not as bad as I thought it would. That concludes my report, Dr. Pritchard.
Thank you very much, Joe. And last but not least, would ask Andy Kripp to speak to the work he's been doing on behalf of our HR department and leading that effort, both with our just managing our general employee questions and concerns, as well as working very closely with our bargaining units to make sure that we are all on the same page. So Andy, take it away.
Thank you, Alice. As Mark noted at the top of the call, we're working to keep all of our employees whole in terms of pay through the end of the semester. We have shifted the overwhelming majority of our employees to telework and provided them support, guidance, and direction on how to maximize their effectiveness and set their expectations for telework, a significant shift for our employees. And a great deal of appreciation for the work that Joe's team has done to facilitate for those folks and make them effective. We are now down to essential staff only on the campuses. These folks referred to as level 1. We've implemented some unique shift schedules, which will minimize the exposure of folks to each other and to the public to mitigate any future risk for them. So being very creative in how we manage that. We are also working through and keeping the business as usual moving forward and getting work done, continuing to hire people and things of that nature. In terms of the relationship with our 10-plus unions, we initiated daily meetings right out of the gate with our union leaders from our classified bargaining units and our unclassified bargaining units, and we've been able to resolve issues quickly and on the fly. I have to say that their participation has been really helpful and useful in identifying and allowing us to get issues solved quickly with a lot of thoughts and modifications to the bargaining unit. It's been very, very helpful. Our primary focus now really is the health and safety of those level 1 folks that are still working on our campuses that are primarily limited to maintenance, janitorial, police, and IT staff. So ensuring that they're able to come and go to work and maintain the appropriate distancing and mitigate their exposure while they perform the critical work. And Alice, that's all that I have.
Thank you very much, Andy. So, Mr. Chairman, before I hand it off, I just want to again let you know there are other members on this team, and we have been all working together very collaboratively. We are on daily calls, multiple calls on some days with the governor's office and other agencies. We have been on federal calls with the delegation. Alex has been managing calls from legislators asking for particular information. Ernestine and Keith have been working closely with the governor's office and others on MOUs and other legal arrangements that we need to have. As you know, Lee has been sending out communications and trying to keep our community informed about what is happening. And Angelo has been a critical member of our team, keeping in touch with students and handling their complaints as they come into the system office. So you heard some high-level stuff from folks, but want you to know that there's a lot of depth of work happening as well. And happy to take questions, and I'm happy to play the air traffic controller and direct calls to the right people as you all ask them.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I know that, Alice, that is a long list that extends down through every campus. And in the interest of time, we can't enumerate it now. But, you know, I just imagine and know that there's, you know, stress in every way, including the not small challenges of shifting the way one teaches to an entirely new modality. So thanks to everybody involved. I have questions about that aspect of this in terms of how faculty might be adjusting to the, you know, the different format of learning and teaching. And I'm just thinking that that's probably best left for the Academic and Student Affairs Committee to address tomorrow. So I just flagged that for the chair to consider as a topic of discussion. I'm sure it was already on the agenda. So I just want to acknowledge that that's one of the many challenges folks are confronting, and I look forward to hearing from Regent Harris about that as the information comes in. Any questions from my fellow regents? Yeah, Mark,
Matt, could I just add just a very high level point to that? And I think that Academic and Student Affairs will get more detail about that tomorrow. But what I will say as a general comment is that our faculty adapted extremely well and extremely quickly to the point where when we began to teach fully online, many other institutions in the region and the state were just thinking about how they were going to do it. So while I know there's been some challenges, as there always is, our faculty did an incredible job of adapting to the online environment. So that's just a general statement, and then tomorrow I'm sure they can get into more specifics about some of the challenges.
Great to hear. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is David Jimenez. Andy, you may have touched on this, and if so, I probably missed it. If this is the way it's going to be for the rest of the semester, do you anticipate any potential workforce reductions, any furloughing of staff that are not essential or really have nothing to do, given the move to a remote learning environment for the duration or for the remainder of this semester?
Andy, could I handle that at a high level, and then you could
Please do, Mark.
chime in? David, we don't anticipate doing anything that you just described. When we talked about paying people through the end of the semester, we were never envisioning not paying people who were, actively involved in teaching and learning and student services and IT and those kinds of things. The question had been raised, well, what about folks who have been sent home through no fault of their own, but their jobs and their functions do not lend themselves to working from home? And we made a decision early on, and even before the rest of state government followed suit, that we were not going to disadvantage these folks who, through no fault of their own, had to not come to the office every day and provide their function. My goal for as long as this lasts, and I've had these conversations with the governor, is to not disadvantage anybody who is employed as part of our, system. First of all, we have a CBAC agreement, which is sort of the overarching, labor agreement that is in place through 2027, but the job protection provision is in place through the end of June of 2022. I believe. So even if we wanted to entertain those kinds of things without opening up, that agreement, we would not be able to. But my strong commitment is to not have this negative public health crisis impact people any more than it has to. And the thought of not paying people who in many cases, may live paychecks to paychecks and have children at home they're trying to educate, is not something I would look to do. But Andy, specifically, if you want to address any specifics.
No, I don't think I have much to add to that, Mark. Just safe to say that, through the technology that we've been able to deploy, I would say the overwhelming majority of folks are being productive, maybe not as productive as they could be. We do understand that there are folks whose work is not amenable to telework, but they are in the minority, David. So as Mark has said, no layoffs or furloughs planned through the end of the semester, and hopefully we can turn the corner by the time we get to the summer.
Well, I think that's a laudable and a terrific decision, and it makes sense on many levels. And it also sounds, due to the tremendous effort of IT and others, Joe's team and other organizations, like there isn't going to be a material drop in productivity. Mark, have you considered whether that decision to maintain the status quo opens the door for more federal relief to the extent the federal funds are directed towards employers who maintain employees on payroll. I have done no, I say this having done no analysis in terms of public or, employers or university employers, but I know that in the private sector, private employers stand to benefit in some cases, in some scenarios, to the extent they maintain employees on payroll versus furlough or layoff.
Yeah, David, I mean, I think we're looking at every way we can access federal funds that are currently available and may be available through additional federal legislation. I think as Ben reported, we're keeping track of every single expense related to this pandemic. And, you know, to the extent that we might be able to access some funding where we kept folks on payroll as opposed to, you know, furloughing them, you know, we'll have to take a very, very close look at that. I would anticipate that because we have an overarching labor agreement in place, that may mitigate some access to that. But be assured, we are looking, you know, to squeeze every nickel we can, you know, out of any sort of federal relief packages that come our way.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, David.
And any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chair,
thanks again.
I'm sorry, this is Alice. Mr. Chair, I was just going to mention that we will undoubtedly have a report for you at your April 16th board meeting as well, and that we do meet weekly, if not more often, with the presidents and the regional presidents and the CEOs of the community colleges and the universities and Charter Oak, and we'll keep bringing forward their concerns and also their accomplishments, because they certainly have had many during this time. So thank you.
Thank you, and please thank them. All right, the Students First update.
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, because we'll have more to say in April, but you may remember we had been invited to go back to NECHI this month to give them a status report on Students First, to address some of the questions they had with our April of 2019 status report, and then to give them a 2-year implementation plan at a very high level of our plans. That meeting has been postponed until June. NECHI is meeting virtually this month and are only taking up very few issues that don't require a lot of attention and do not require in-person conversations and discussion. And so they have asked us to come in June as part of their annual meeting, and perhaps spend as much as a half of a day with them, going through our response and our plans for the future. This does not provide any sort of slowdown to the work that needs to be done over the next couple of months or through the end of this year, as we continue to do a couple of things. We continue to manage this crisis, and that's really taken the bulk of our time over the last 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks, however long it's been. But we also continue to do, the other critical work that's necessary in a number of areas to make sure that we are, meeting the mission and the goals set by the board and by the team. So we'll have more to say on that. I just wanted folks to know that our appearance has been postponed until June, and I'll have more to say as the next 6 weeks or so transpire.
Thank you. All right, I think that concludes the agenda for this portion of the meeting. Thanks everybody again for your work, for the helpful information, and we wish you all the strength that you'll need in the coming weeks. I'd like to now ask for a motion for the committee to go into executive session. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Busy Lease.
Merle.
I'm just waiting for R2D2 to finish here. All right. Elise and Merle, thank you. I think the secretary probably has you down for the motion and the second. May I have a vote now? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries, so we will go into executive session. And this is discussion for the purposes of the evaluation or appointment of a public officer or employee, and no votes will be taken. President Orjakian, Dr. Pritchard, and Aaron, please stay with us. Once we wrap, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. There won't be any action or votes by the committee within or after the executive session.
And this is Aaron, Mr. Chairman. Rich Balducci did join the call, so he did participate in the last vote. And
Welcome, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you.
and we'll be
Aaron, we're not staying on this line, correct?
no, we're not staying on this line. Everybody should hang up. I'll be ending this call and call in on the other number that you received.
Thank you.
Thank you.